What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Dorm Debate podcast. Boy, oh boy, do we have an exciting slate of games to go over for you guys. Arizona Cardinals, unbelievable. The Giants beating the Eagles. The Ravens lose again. We're going to talk all about that right now. Let's get into the first game. The Hail Murray, if everyone heard that right, Kyler Murray, to Deandre Hopkins for the game winner against the Bills. John, initial reactions of Deandre Hopkins catching the game winner against the Bills.
So the first thing I want to say off the bat here is congratulations to the New York Jets this week. So this was, if you guys didn't know, this was the first week all year that they didn't lose. So congratulations, they had a bye. So this will be the only week that they don't lose until the new year.
Wow.
So congratulations to the Jets fans for not taking an L this week. But as far as the Cardinals and Bills game goes, this was a great game. We had it on our slate last podcast. We picked it. I picked the Bills, and it was such a fun game to watch. Diggs catching that touchdown at the end, him going crazy, and then Kyler coming down the field. And both these defenses had been bad, but Kyler gets to the 50-yard line and the amazing thing about it is that he throws it up, and Hopkins is covered by Tre'Davious White, who's, I would argue, a top 10 quarterback, close to top 5 in the league. Then you have Micah Hyde, a safety, who's definitely a top 10 safety in the league, and Jordan Poyer, who's definitely one of the top 10 defenders in the AFC and could be in the whole league. So you have you can't really put three guys from any team, three guys from the secondary on any team that are better than those three guys. And Hopkins is just taller. He has longer arms, stronger hands, higher vertical, and he just comes down with it. So it was amazing watching that live and just being like, what the heck just happened? How did that just happen? So it was a crazy game, and it was amazing by Hopkins, but also that's why you see some teams, when other teams are going for a Hail Mary, they put wide receivers there because Hopkins was taller than every one of those three guys, and he had a higher vertical than any of those three guys. So why isn't Diggs out there? Obviously Diggs isn't going to be able to chase somebody down. We saw that with Gronk against Miami a couple years ago. Kenyon Drake, goes right by Gronk, but that's why you put guys back there, because they know how to high point the ball and knock it down. And they didn't have anybody out there to do that. I don't know why Diggs was not out there. So I don't understand that, coaching decision, but Hopkins is amazing. So it was a lot of fun to watch.
Caleb?
Yeah, I think I'm going to echo some of John's points there. Those defenders on them, I mean, the height difference, vertical differences, those being true, that's a fair point. But in the defense of the defense, those are three veteran good defenders, like you said. I think it's more of a testament to how great Hopkins was on that play. And another thing that impressed me, I mean, like your question asked, I think it's an impressive game for both teams. I mean, it's kind of, if I'm a Bills fan, it's a tough loss. It's one of those where you kind of throw your hands up, and it's, both teams played really well. I think you both have teams there who are playing they can compete deep into a playoff game. So that's the upside. Now, you did lose on a Hail Mary, which is, it's that's up to the defense at that point. I think it just showed more of that in that moment. I mean, these games, football comes down to who wants it most at the right time. And if all the cards line up perfectly and there, Murray and Hopkins just connected. It amazed me. I was watching it. And I mean, the way Murray threw, he was off balance, having avoided a defender, a lineman. And he was off balance, throwing across his body, 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage already. He was kind of far back because he had to scramble away. And he still gets it all the way there. I mean, it was an amazing throw, and let alone the catch in coverage was, he had that jump man gloves on. It was something he called it dunking, the equivalent of dunking on someone in football. That's what Hopkins did. So, I mean, it's impressive for all of them. I think it shows that, my takeaway is both teams are going to be teams to watch. Allen, like I said, would have hit the game-leading touchdown, would have been game-winning if this didn't pan out. So, you have those clutch elements on the Bills. It just didn't come out the way they wanted in this game, but they did the most they could. I think it'll be fun to watch these two teams if they ever meet up again, and either in the schedule or during the playoffs. But yeah, I think it was a crazy game. One of the probably the best. I agree with pundits saying that this was the greatest play of the season so far. I don't think anything comes close to that with that much stakes on the line, because now you're starting to watch it. How the record's showing for your division, very tight. Those records where they have right now, so every win starts to matter right now. So with those stakes, I think it was a great play.
Yep, I totally agree with John and Caleb. I'm so glad the world's got to finally witness what us Texans have been saying in Kyler Murray when he was in high school. No matter what, if he was down 3 touchdowns against the top teams in the state, he would find a way to win. He was undefeated in high school for a reason. This guy is a superstar. He refuses to lose, and that's what people love about him. He's a competitor. Honestly, I was starting to doubt towards the end of the game. I was like, oh, I think it's done for the Cardinals, even though Kyler's going to try to work a miracle. And lo and behold, he gives Deandre Hopkins a chance, throwing it in a perfect position for him to, essentially, catch over those 3 deep defensive backs. So I think that was really impressive on Kyler Murray's part. Hopkins, obviously, that was really impressive on his part as well. But just the fact that Kyler Murray always refuses to lose, to have that competitor on your team, the Cardinals are in for a great like 10 years with Kyler Murray, because that's a fierce competitor. To John's point about having receivers out there, I completely agree. Even in high school, there's something called hands team, right? Not just on special teams, but in a crucial play like that where they're gonna throw a Hail Mary, you need the best hands on the field. I mean, their job is essentially to knock it down, but also, like John was saying, they have probably the highest verticals, right? So you need to call on the hands team. They should have took all those defensive backs out and put, all those top receivers. Cole Beasley probably not, but Diggs, some of those top receivers, some of those big, strong, tall receivers, maybe they could have knocked it down. They probably would have had a better chance than those defensive backs. But we all know this. This is what happens in high school. Even they needed to put the hands team out there, and they didn't, and they suffered for it. DeAndre Hopkins is obviously a better athlete than those 3 DBs. But man, that was just crazy. I just have major respect for Kyler even more. He's doing this in the NFL now, but us Texans have been seeing this for years, so it's nothing new to us.
Yeah, and just to add to Jonathan's point before you get to it, Jared, because I know he's your guy, Murray, but just because you're talking about, I know we shared this on the Instagram for those who only watch the podcast on YouTube. I mean, Kyler, I think, was 42-0 in high school. Never lost in high school as a in all the time he played, and I think he was 12-2 as a starter. But I mean, I know I shared this on the Instagram, but he'd never thrown a Hail Mary before, and for that to be his first, wow. It was a pretty darn good one. I mean, imagine with that record, he probably never had to do one, but hey, there's a first time for everything. That was a good time to do it.
Yeah, I've said a lot about the Cardinals and Kyler Murray, so I don't want to just feel like a broken record and just keep saying it. But I want to get into the debate that everyone has started talking about with DeAndre Hopkins' game-winning touchdown, and it's who's the best receiver right now. There was a short list that people considered: Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins, Michael Thomas, Julio Jones. John earlier before the podcast said Antonio Brown. We'll put him in there, but top 5 receivers. I want to hear all your guys' takes on where you see DeAndre Hopkins sitting as. Could he be? Is he the best right now? Is he second best, third best? Where does he rank for you guys? And who's your top, if not Hopkins? Jonathan, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. DeAndre Hopkins. I think he's the best. He's the best. In Houston, he wasn't given enough opportunity, even though Deshaun Watson did a pretty good job in trying to give him the ball always. And that one season, he didn't really have any drops, right? I think this guy's the most talented in the league right now. And it showed. He got noticed finally in a crucial game against the Bills. So I was happy for him to get noticed. Some people may argue Diggs. Diggs is also on top there. But if you look at the numbers, they're actually pretty close. I think that Josh Allen, obviously, he has a powerful arm. He always throws the ball. So Diggs has more chances to put up big numbers. Kyler Murray throws the ball decent, throws the ball well, but obviously he runs a lot. But still, DeAndre Hopkins is putting up those numbers, I think that's really impressive. And you saw what he did when he came to the Cardinals. He's basically turned this team around, right? The Cardinals were struggling last year. This year, they're in the running to win the NFC West. So DeAndre Hopkins put himself on the map, and I think he's definitely the best receiver in the league right now.
Yeah, it's amazing how like last year at this time with these teams, we wouldn't even be talking about this game. Like both these teams weren't like really like pushing to like be contenders in the NFL, and like now they both get their top receiver, and now they're both we know they're playoff teams even right now. We know that was a playoff matchup. So like it's really interesting. But back to the point of the wide receiver, DeAndre Hopkins is the best receiver in the NFL. He's the only like get shut down by anybody. Like we saw him play against Ramsey when Ramsey was on the Jaguars and Hopkins was on the Texans, and Hopkins always got the better of that matchup. And we see Ramsey shut down a lot of other guys. You know, you saw DK Metcalf this past week only get like 2 catches. So like there's not a week that Hopkins goes and plays and just like completely tanks. Like Devontae Adams against the Buccaneers, that was horrible. Like there's always guys, Michael Thomas, although he's injured now. I mean, if you said, give me a player, you get to choose a player for the next 5 years, a wide receiver to start your team with, it would be DeAndre Hopkins. So like he just understands the game so well, and he has that mentality that nobody can guard him, which a lot of wide receivers have to have. You have to have that confidence that nobody can guard you, and he has that. And he's just a monster, and he's just awesome. He has the strongest hands in the league. We see him make all these incredible catches, not necessarily leading the league in statistical categories, but making crazy catches and clutch plays.
Yeah, I like both Diggs and Hopkins. I'm looking at some of the stats here, which I guess could be helpful. Jonathan, you mentioned that they're pretty close, and you're totally right. Diggs has 73 receptions. Hopkins has 67, so 6 less. Diggs has 906 yards. DeAndre Hopkins has 861, so it's about 45. And then they both have 4 touchdowns. But interestingly enough, Diggs has the most fantasy points right now, and Hopkins is number 4 in fantasy. Now that's a margin of about 13 points, so that's one good game difference. I'm leaning towards Hopkins, but I can make an argument for Diggs for the sake of you guys both talking about Hopkins. Diggs has slightly more receptions. I mean, they are so even. It's kind of like I think a lot of their fate at the end of the season is going to be tied to how well their quarterback plays. Because if not, Lockett or Metcalf would be up here. But Wilson's had some weird, he's been having some weird games that's affected their production, as well as them getting shut down, like you said, John. I think you'll see how Allen and Murray are competing for probably one of the best quarterbacks. They might be both competing for MVP. We'll talk about it more later, but you'll see their fate tied to them more. I think either one of those guys, the guy in second, I mean, Hill and Adams are second and third in fantasy rankings, and they both have 9 touchdowns. That's over double of what Diggs and Hopkins have, which I think you have to take into account how much, I mean, it's, Adams has 61 receptions, so that's still a lot of receptions, but Diggs, Hopkins, I'll add Adams in there, play such big parts in the offense that they got to be in that conversation. So right now I'd lean for, I mean, my short answer is this week, the best receiver this week was Hopkins. I mean, how can you look at that and think someone else, might have statistically done better, but that's this week. I think it was Hopkins. So far this season, I'm leaning more towards Diggs or Hopkins, but after a week like this, you'd have to give it to Hopkins.
Yeah, if I'm looking at this season, I would actually go Devontae Adams. He leads the receivers in touchdowns, leads in yards per game. I believe total yards, I think he's leading. But still, even now, I have to look at consistency. With receivers, I like being consistent, not having a lot of drops. And I want to put some stats behind some of the things we were saying. So I took the stats from Devontae Adams, Julio Jones, and Hopkins from 2018, 19, and then this year. And the one thing that stood out to me was the amount of drops that DeAndre Hopkins has had in 3 years. Well, 2.5 between this season. 7. Just 7 drops. People have that in one season. Like 7 drops in 2.5 years is crazy. And I saw a Pro Football Focus stat that was back in 2019 that said that out of 115 catchable balls, he had no drops. And the second person was Randall Cobb, who had 60 and he had no drops. So I don't know if he has some sort of sticky gloves or big hands. He doesn't drop anything. He only has 1 drop this season. And
Wow.
it's crazy because with a player like DeAndre Hopkins, every team is putting the best cornerback on. So he's blanketed. So it's not like these are easy catches. I guarantee he's getting pressed constantly throughout the whole game. I think 2 games ago against the Cardinals, he had like 2 catches. He barely had anything, so they shut him down. But to look back at like 2018 and 2019, I think we got to give credit to Julio Jones. Yards per game, he led the receivers in 2018 and 2019 in yards per game. 104 in 2018 and 93 in 2019. So I think you got to give credit to Julio. But I compare Julio to Calvin Johnson, and just the size of those receivers is kind of what propels them to be one of the best. And Julio's speed is actually really uncommon for his size. But DeAndre Hopkins, his acrobatic catches that he has, that's one thing that I really haven't seen in a receiver like him. And especially one play, I forget if it was last year or 2 years ago, but it was against the Cowboys. And he had like a catch in the backfield and he had to get to like the 40-yard line or something. And he like did a crazy spin and like a juke, and he's carrying the ball with one hand, just running, and he gets the first down or whatever and gets in field goal range, and they end up winning. Like it was like the game winning play. But like things like that, his clutch ice in his veins is what puts him, in my opinion, at number 1. His acrobatic catches, his clutch moments. He doesn't drop a single thing. He's very consistent with yards per game. I just don't see a player like him now, and I don't think I've ever seen one in the past quite like him. And I think this is why people were so shocked that the Texans were even thinking about shopping him, like to even put him up for offers, because you can't get an equal value for DeAndre Hopkins. He's one of a kind player. So that's why everyone was so crazy with them even shopping it, let alone trading him for scraps and a washed up running back. So those are just some stats that I wanted to throw out. But do we all agree DeAndre Hopkins? Does anyone else? Anybody else?
I think we all agree. And one point, like Jonathan, you were saying, and something that stuck with me back a couple years ago when we were talking football, every day, we would always debate who's better. And you would bring up the point, like, he's just not a winner. And I was like, what do you mean? That's like, I don't care about that. Like, show me the stats. But it's really like, you have to find somebody, and the Cardinals found Murray and Hopkins, and they're just winners. Like, you have to find somebody that just finds a way to win. And those are 2 guys that just find a way to win. Like, Murray is, 40 something and 0 in high school and 12 and 2 in college. Like, there's a reason why he's winning, not just because he's good. Like, he just knows how to win. And if you get somebody like that on your team where they just know how to win, they're going to know how to win at the next level. They're going to figure it out. So I think both of these guys are winners, and it's a bright future for the Cardinals for the next 5-10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to go through?
You can finish. I'll go after you.
Yeah, I just wanted to like reiterate one thing about him being on the Cardinals that I don't know for sure, but I have to think helps him. is having Larry Fitzgerald in the locker room, a Hall of Fame, future Hall of Famer. I mean, that has to elongate DeAndre Hopkins' football career, and just his mind and perception of the game, and him being the best, knowing that he's the best. Like, he goes into the game knowing he's the best, but he's never satisfied. They mic'd him up for a game a couple weeks ago, and he like missed a pass, and he's on the sideline, and he like can't get over it. He's like, I can't believe I let my team down. And everyone's like, you're fine. Like, we got a couple of plays. He's like, I just can't believe that I just like let my team down like that. And like, he takes it personally. And this guy, there's really no outside factors with him. It is all work, all football, wants to win. And that's what you need in the locker room.
Yeah, and since you asked, like, who else might be? I know we all agreed on Hopkins. It's hard to argue after the week he had. Like, I did definitely, I'd accept for sure though. I mean, Adams is a good point you pointed out. Diggs too. Those two. I mean, Hill as well. If you're looking at statistics, it's maybe Adams because he has comparably as many receptions as these two guys, and not as many yards, but still a lot more than still like about 100 more than Hill and 9 touchdowns. But I'd still give Hopkins for this week for sure. The one thing I did want to add, as I was reading here about, like, I was curious, like, why did the Texans trade him? Like, why? And at least one article here that was mentioning it, which is kind of sad if I'm a Texans fans, but I think it comes down to Hopkins and Bill O'Brien, the former head coach, and who became the GM as well, had beef. Like, they had personal issues, and I was thinking maybe the money with Hopkins, like how good he is, he must have been paid, but he was under contract with the Texans till 2022. And now when he went with the Cardinals, they extended him, so they didn't have problem paying him more. Now that's because Kyler's under a rookie contract, so that's fair. But my understanding, based on this article, is the Texans could have kept him. It just came down to the now fired head coach couldn't put aside their issues. And if I'm Watson, like, you paid Watson all this money, but he doesn't have the same caliber. You had someone of that caliber and you let him go. So I think definitely in hindsight, the Cardinals came out big winners on that one.
100%. It's paying dividends already.
Yeah.
Let's get to the other game that we all had a lot of stake in. I picked the Giants. I was the only one to pick the Giants. We got a Giants fan. We got an Eagles fan. There was a lot at stake for this game. And what do you know? I was right. The Giants pulled off the win. Eagles 17, Giants 27. Daniel Jones had 244 yards, 64 yards rushing and a touchdown. And I was going to say something else, but I can't find it. I want to start off just to get my thing out there, and then we can all go around. Pleasantly surprised at the calls by Jason Garrett. They're starting to implement the read option, and I love it. I absolutely love it, because not a lot of people know that Daniel Jones is a straight up speedster. And his touchdown, John texted me. He's like, I thought I just saw Tyreek Hill running. I can't believe it. I mean, the way he can accelerate through defenses, like, I can't comprehend it in my head. Like, he's flying past these cornerbacks. I was just like, oh my God.
He doesn't look like he runs that fast. Like, he is fast. When you watch him, it's like he's running in slow motion.
Kind of like long strides.
Yeah. No disrespect.
No disrespect at all. I mean, they pulled the read option against the Eagles on Thursday night, and he, was gained like 85 yards and then tumbled down. So they decided to implement that again. And
yeah, we couldn't stop it.
It paid off. I mean, 64 yards rushing, a touchdown. And then if you look at their rushing yards, I don't have it here right now. I thought I had it. But their rushing yards was really well. Their running back had 2 touchdowns. Obviously, this option is starting to work with the lower of talent that they had to take from Barkley to what's the running back? Gallman?
Gallman, yeah.
Yeah, like the drop in talent at running back, you got to figure out something creative to do. And I think giving the defense the option to say, oh, Daniel Jones can run the ball. we got to be able to defend that option, is opening a lot of runs for Bauman. And I love that. Jason Garrett implementing that. That's genius right now. And the defense did really well. The Eagles were 0 for 9 on third down conversions. That is huge. They didn't have turnovers, but the third down conversions, they had 0. That is unbelievable to see. Yeah, I mean, I like where the Giants are going. They got a bye week. Their kicker, Gano, just got tested positive for COVID. So he has like a week and whatever. I don't know if he'll be back for the next game against the Bengals. But their next game against the Bengals, I see them winning. And it's only up for the Giants right now. Daniel Jones is playing fantastic. Rushing, passing, everything's really clicking together. And I like what I'm seeing. John, you got to like what you're seeing from the Giants.
Oh, yeah, I love it. I mean, I didn't pick the Giants to win because I thought the Eagles coming off their bye with Dallas Goedert coming back, Miles Sanders coming back, Jalen Reagor coming back, I thought they'd figure it out. But like we said, the Giants defense is legit. And, nobody believed me when I, threw that, fantasy sit player out there to sit Fulgham. But, hopefully everybody will listen to my sit this week. But, some people could have won their matchups if they listened to
me. Wait, I got
1 point. I should have.
I got to throw one stat out that I was going to say. Daniel Jones, as far as QB rushing yards, it goes Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, and then Daniel Jones. He has more rushing yards than Cam Newton, Russell Wilson, Allen, Watson.
Dang.
So we can call him a full-blown dual threat.
Like he runs so much, but no one thinks of him that like he doesn't look like he can do it. Really, right? Like no one in their head is like, oh, he's a scrambling quarterback, but he is.
He looks like so unconventional when he's like doing the read option. And then I got the update on my phone. Daniel Jones like 35-yard rush touchdown. I'm like, what? And then I watched the game and I'm like, okay, this play is going to be a rushing touchdown. And then I see all the guys at the line of scrimmage, and then I see him do the read option, and I'm looking at him, and then I see like 2 guys converging, and I'm like, what the heck? This is going to be a touchdown. And then boom, he's like Tyreek Hill, like straight through. I'm like,
seriously,
what the heck was that? And he's fast.
Remember they clocked him faster than Lamar?
Yeah, one of the fastest speeds in all the NFL when he like against the Eagles the first time.
Yeah.
When he like, fell, but he clocked one of the highest speeds even among receivers. So
I know. I remember we were live on TikTok and we were like, they showed like 21.3 miles per hour, and Jared and I are like, no way. He didn't hit 21, but he actually could have. He's got those long legs, long strides.
Yeah.
He powered through that. That was crazy. But so in the last 2 games, this is the first time in his career he's gone 2 straight games with no turnovers.
Yep.
So if he could continue to do that, he led the league in QBR this week. He was a 93 out of 100. Brady was a 91 out of 100. So he was the best QB this week in the league. So, great way to go into the bye week and then come out against an easy Bengals team. I mean, the Giants are legit. People got to start thinking about them, especially those Eagles. And we'll talk about the division after, you guys give your thoughts. But I think the Giants are looking really good.
It's time. It's time. It's time to face the fans.
Yeah, a lot of great points there, John. Very commendable. That was a tough game to watch as an Eagles fan. I hate to say it because we both had the Eagles winning. We predicted it last podcast, and I had this for the same reasons you had. We had a lot of injuries this season, and you brought up Daniel Jones not having two turnovers for 2 weeks, right, in a row. It's the first time in his career, and this was the first game where Carson Wentz didn't have a turnover for the season. Like says a lot about the hole we've dug, how inconsistently he's played to his past self. But it also shows that it wasn't enough because we weren't converting on third down, even with the cavalry coming, as I put it, the injuries. So that led me to question. There was a lot of, at this point, I defend myself defending Wentz in the beginning because the injuries were such a horrendous problem. It was hard to place whether it was his play versus Just like, to the point that I think Fulgham's a great receiver. They should put him in more. I'm surprised they don't keep him in more, even with Rager and Jeffrey potentially coming back and all these other guys. But the fact that it got to someone from the practice squad showed like the depth of our injury issue down to everyone around Wentz. But that being said, I mean, if these problems are persisting, even with the help coming back, but the health coming back too, then I think you have to start. I can't keep defending Wentz. Like, we want a quarterback who's going to win us games. Like, I think he still has it in him. I was looking at watching Daniel Jones these past few weeks. I would see Daniel Jones have flashes of brilliance, but he would make a lot of mistakes. I think that's why they lost. We talked about it, that's why they lost the Tampa Bay game. Was like, it was theirs to lose. It was just Jones just wasn't making the passes he needed to, and yet this game was the opposite. He was on point. He was he was converting the third downs. The Eagles not winning, not being able to convert a third down. I also think Eagles had scored a touchdown, and without going for the extra point or 2-point conversion, they were 17-21. Okay. They decided to go for 2 points, which would have made it 19-21. But had they scored the extra point, it would have been a field goal to tie it. That was a play call on my decision. I know, I respect, Doug Peterson has a reputation for being aggressive, and as an Eagles fan, more often than not, he's been right in past seasons. This season, it's been a little more questionable because he hasn't had the help. But when they went for 2 in that point and they didn't get it, I was just questioning, like, why? Like, we know we've been on the back foot this game. Why not just hit the extra point unless there was an issue with the kicker's health or something? But at that point, I think that's the best example of the questionable play calling, as well as we need, the cavalry is there. So now if Wentz doesn't succeed, I think we do start looking at harder at Wentz. I still think he has greatness in him and he can be. But at this point, like, I have to look to the logic and reason. Like, as an Eagles fan, I was defending him, and I still will. I still believe in him. But if we need a quarterback who's going to win us games there soon, and if the players around them are healthy now and we're still getting the same results, then you have to look at the coaching or the chemistry or even the quarterback. So it's, Eagles still lead the division, but we're not playing the way, like, if we were to get in the playoffs, I don't see us. We're not playing in a way that inspires hope of a deep run like you did, even when we had Foles come in. So unless these things get fixed in the coming weeks, because the division's still so tight, there's a chance to. But man, that was a tough game.
Yep. And look, Eagles should have won. They had a bye week. Yeah. They had all that time. They had all those returning players. But the blame goes on one person, and that's Carson Wentz. I had him in fantasy, so he literally hurt me the most out of everyone on here. Look, let's look at some numbers, actually. Yeah, it's really personal. So let's look at some numbers. So just for 2020, Russell Wilson is going to earn the most. Kirk Cousins, I don't know why he's earning the second most, but he is. Then there's Carson Wentz. So Carson Wentz is making more this year than Tannehill, Dak, Goff, Watson, Roethlisberger, Kyler, Garoppolo, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Philip Rivers, Joe Burrow, okay. Aaron Rodgers, Tua, Derek Carr, all of them, right? Most of them. If you look at the contracts, obviously Patrick Mahomes has the biggest contract right now. Then you have Russell Wilson, then you have Big Ben, then you have Aaron Rodgers, Goff, Cousins, I don't know why he's there. Carson Wentz, that's another question mark. Then you have after him, again, Dak, Matt Ryan, Tannehill, Garoppolo again, right? Derek Carr, Drew Brees, Tom Brady. Look, a lot of these guys that are beneath him have been playing way better so far this season. And, when their team needs them to perform, those quarterbacks, they give their teams a chance. And in terms of Carson Wentz, 8.92 points. I had him in fantasy, 8.92 points. Come on, Carson, you got to do better than that. With that money you're getting, it was a 4-year, $128 million deal, $32 million guaranteed. Something's wrong. Something's not right. The Eagles organization made a big mistake in signing him to that massive deal if you knew he was going to perform like this. Yes, he had that one good season, but just because you have that one good season doesn't mean you pay him. That's why Jerry Jones has been waiting and playing games with Dak, because he wants to see it over time. He wants to see consistency. Carson Wentz is not consistent. It's real sad. He's the reason they lost. Blame should go on him. He should have found a way for the team to win, and he didn't. And so, if I was in the Eagles organization, all eyes have to go to Carson Wentz. He should be in the hot seat right now. He's definitely in the hot seat right now. He has to be. That's simple. As simple as that. That's why they lost. If you want to put blame on somebody, don't put it on Doug Peterson. Put it on Carson Wentz, who's not doing enough for this team to win.
Dude, what if everybody in the league restructured their pay scale so that you don't get paid a salary, you get paid per game. So like you get like $500,000 for a win. And then like for yards, you get money. And for touchdowns, you get money. And for like third down conversions, you get money.
It would be a lot more competitive.
Yeah, why not? Like, because Wentz really doesn't have, I mean, he plays just for his reputation at this point. He's getting the money. Kirk Cousins doesn't give a shit.
He doesn't care.
What's the incentive for Kirk Cousins to play well?
To win.
Oh, he won his first Monday night, right?
Oh yeah.
He never won on Monday night until yesterday. We were recording this on Tuesday. No, yeah, you guys have a fair point. I mean, I would say it's when you're paying quarterbacks, it's to the market, not to skill. So a lot of people don't know, but I agree with Jonathan. Like when you pay a quarterback that much, and he's good enough to be able to be worth that, but quarterbacks who are worth that money should be able to, even with all the injuries and issues we've had, a good quarterback, it covers over a lot of bad stuff that a team has going on, the Seahawks, Green Bay, they probably have more gaps than the Chiefs or, the Seattle, but a good quarterback who's worth that money will kind of ease over things. And it's sad to see Wentz not doing it.
Yeah. I wish they would put in Jalen Hurts for a little bit more plays, in my opinion. No, but seriously, dude, I was telling John, I was texting him during the game. Every time he goes in the game, there's a bad snap. I'm like, John, center.
A flag or something.
He's like, you're saying he's conspiring against them? It's like, oh, Jalen's in. Let's make it look.
I had to go back. I looked at every snap from Jalen Hurts from week 1 to week 6. And there were 5 bad snaps out of like 20 something. I'm like, that's baloney, man. Like, please give him a fair shot. I think Kelsey is too loyal to Wentz. But I have valid reasons to put in Hurts. 1, you have 3 wins. Well, you can't get any worse. So
you're in the lead in the division. Of course you can get worse.
Yeah.
You have Washington and Dallas who don't have their quarterback, and then you have the Giants who are winning because they're implementing the read option and their quarterback's running the ball.
You can't just change mid-season when you're the division winner.
Don't change mid-season, but
it's like the Packers being like, oh.
Could you imagine all these defenses they're about to face and they throw out Jalen Hurts? They'll be like, what is going on? They would have no clue how to handle him at all. So, like, just throw him in for one full game. Like, I beg of you, Doug Peterson, I just want to see a full 1 game sample size of Jalen Hurts. Then I'll shut up about it. I just want to see 1 full game. I feel like
I would have
point for the way Carson Wentz is playing. If Carson Wentz would have an MVP season and they were still only had 3 wins, then sure, obviously keep him in. But he's having an awful season, and you have Jalen Hurts. What's the point of drafting him with your 2nd overall to put him in probably every 20 plays just to do a stupid handoff? Like, it's dumb. Like, use him in the pass play. The Patriots used Myers to throw a absolute dime 50 yards for a touchdown. Why don't you do that? It hurts is barely throwing the ball.
They should do something like that. Some trick play where they throw it to him as a wide receiver or something, and then he like fakes running it and then just throws it all the way across to like Rager or something.
Yep. I mean, the Eagles' backs are against the wall right now, and they need to figure out something to do. The Giants have adjusted. They lost their best player, and they've adjusted. The Eagles have stayed stagnant so far. There really hasn't been any highs or lows. They got Miles Sanders back, and he's just been on and off. He hasn't been as consistent as they would like.
So in terms of the division and who can win out or win the rest of the games, let me just go through their schedule really quick. Giants have a bye.
Yep.
Then they get Bengals,
win,
Seahawks, Cardinals, Browns, Ravens, Cowboys.
Win. Okay, so the only loss is against the Cardinals.
let's say realistically they beat the Bengals.
Yep.
And they beat the Cowboys.
Yep.
Now they have 4 other games: Seahawks, Cardinals, Browns, Ravens. Let's say they just win one of those.
Yep.
So let's say they go 3-3 the rest of the way.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's check the Eagles. The
Mhm.
Eagles play
Don't.
the Browns, the Seahawks, the Packers, the Saints, the
Ooh.
Cardinals,
And the Cowboys and Washington football team.
and then the Cowboys and the Washington football team who beat them first game of the season. So they lose that again. They'll beat the Cowboys.
We won the tie though. We won the rematch though. We'll win the midterm.
But then, so you lose to, let's say you lose to Washington football team. You lose to you're definitely going to lose to the Saints and Packers and probably Cardinals. And then that puts you at a tie with the Giants. So now you have to beat either the Seahawks or the Browns. You have to win one of those 2 games. So this week or next week, you literally have to win. Otherwise, Giants could win the division. And to be honest, Giants could win. Giants could get a.
That's what I said last
now
week.
you're coming
That's
to
what
your
I said.
senses.
I said that last week.
Everyone, come on the bandwagon. Let's go. Come on.
Let's go.
It's still too open. It's like, this division is so bad that you can't even statistically rule out the Cowboys yet. Like they're one game out,
No, you can't.
right?
Yeah, you can.
So hypothetically, it's like we could. My point is, we're the tightest division in the NFL, but not in a good way, because we have the lowest difference between our fourth and our first, which is 1. Literally, Eagles and Giants have 3. Washington and Dallas have 2.
Dude,
And it's gonna go anyway. We're all
Washington
so bad.
can still win the division.
Right.
Yeah,
they
they
got
look
Alex
pretty
Smith
good.
back. They got Alex Smith back, and their defense is legit too.
And Cowboys looking good too. I mean, last week when we played Steelers, it was pretty
Stop
close, right?
Stop.
You might be getting Dalton back.
It's over.
So that's my point. With all these variables, I think it's too early to call. It's just, bro. I still would have disagreed with replacing Wentz, because he was like, what was it? It was close with the Steelers. I mean, the scoreboard didn't reflect that at the very end, but it was a kind of close game. With the Ravens, we lost by 2, and then we won 2 games, and then we lost recently. So we were on a 2-win streak when we lost to the Giants last week. The idea of putting in Hurtson, I think it was. I mean, I don't know. With Rodgers, they drafted Love, right? And that was the first, second round. And no one's talking about Love because Rodgers is still playing that well.
Mhm.
No one's. But I as we get deeper into the season and the cavalry's back, because with the injuries, I don't think it was fair to put it all on Wentz. Like, it's hard to play well when your receivers are
Right.
coming off the practice squad. And then with he's the only guy who's been healthy. I wish, I don't know if the problem is the play calling, because I wish I'd see him get out of the pocket. If this continues though, and the issues aren't as pointed, then I think it's fair to, maybe not next game, or maybe a few games, if there's still a chance, or if there's no chance, see how Jalen does. But that's saying a lot, because I think Carson has it in him still. He has we know his ceiling can be high. It's just inconsistency. It's like, I don't know. So we'll have to see. But it's gonna be tough. We have a tough schedule.
I mean, when Jalen Hurts got drafted, I think the first thing wasn't, oh, he's going to replace Wentz. I think it was like, oh my God, Doug Peterson and the trick plays he's probably got up his sleeve are going to be crazy.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen any of that. I mean, the plays that Hurts has been running out on, they're simple handoffs.
They've been some trick plays in fair play, but you're right. Like, and now people are questioning like the aggressive play calling nature of Peterson. Like, some of the myth has faded away since the Super Bowl. I think he's still a great coach. I think Carson can still be a great quarterback. It's just like the pieces aren't there, and if we're not adjusting to the current, 2020, then we're gonna pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and just like when I played football in high school, coaches are hesitant to run trick plays. You can't even execute the basic plays that you're supposed to be running. If you can show you can execute those, like the Saints did last year, they're executing the plays. So Taysom Hill will always come in and run some trick play or something, and they still kind of doing that this year. You have to execute the basic plays you have first, then you can move on to trick plays. You can't just throw on trick plays, right? You have to show the coach that you can earn it and execute it. So that's why I wouldn't put the blame on Doug Peterson right now. It's more so of the quarterback play, in my opinion.
No, that's a fair point. I never really thought about that. So the Baltimore Ravens are now 6-3. after losing to the Patriots of all teams 23-17. Lamar Jackson, 249 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Now, the crazy thing, before I get into talking this about you guys, is the Steelers when they lost, or the Ravens when they played the Steelers, they outgained them in yards, in total yards. They outgained them and still lost. The Ravens outgained the Patriots again and still lost. And then obviously the one game they lost, they got beat down on Monday night against the Chiefs. John, are you worried about the Ravens right now?
I'm actually not too worried about the Ravens. Ravens fans, don't worry. It's fine. The last 3 weeks you played Steelers, Colts, Patriots. So Steelers, tough defense, you lost. Colts, tough defense, you actually won. Patriots, it was raining like crazy the whole game. So, you can't put too much into that. So you get the Titans this week who don't have a great defense. Then you get the Steelers who have a good defense. You might lose that. But then you have Cowboys, Browns, Jaguars, Giants, Bengals. Those 5 straight wins right there to end the season. So even if you lose to the Titans and Steelers, you're going 11-5 at the end of the season. So please don't worry. You're going to beat the Cowboys. You're going to beat the Browns. You're going to beat the Jaguars, Giants, and Bengals easy. So don't worry about it. Take a deep breath. Lamar will be fine. And you could even consider trading for Lamar in fantasy because he has an easy schedule the rest of the way.
So regular season, they're fine, but playoffs, you're not.
Exactly. Thank you.
Oh, we're talking about playoffs?
No, just like the rest of the way.
We're talking everything, man.
Everything.
We're talking everything.
Yeah.
No, I think they're going to go at worst 11-5 into the playoffs, but
Fair.
I don't think they win. I don't think they win more than one playoff game. If
Okay.
that.
All right. Yeah.
Dude, so if I was Ravens fans, that would suck.
Yeah. I'd be worried.
Not to diss your point, but we talked about this in the imposter episode, which fans, if you haven't seen it, so it's a good one.
Yeah.
Where we call out which team was undefeated
Ravens.
was the. Yeah, I picked the Ravens because I think this shows a pattern of great coaches being able to beat the Ravens, not easily, but handily, let's say.
Exactly.
Tomlin, Belichick, and what was the other? I forget the last name of the
Reed.
Right, like they're able to do it, and I think once you figure out, I think the numbers that you were mentioning, Jared, shows some efficiency issues. Like they're getting a lot of yards, it's flashy, they can come out of the regular season with a lot of wins, but I look at their red zone efficiency, they're converting on third downs, like they have brilliance in them, but I don't think they have the right pieces to. And I'm not a Ravens hater. I'm just saying with the style of play, they haven't adjusted to being able to beat better teams.
Well, they're not going to get better. Sorry, Jonathan. They're not going to get better until they get a wide receiver. I'm sorry. They need a top 10 receiver in the league for Lamar.
That's fair. After watching Bills and Cardinals go off, once they have one all-star, that might be the game-making difference for the Ravens.
Yep. And I think, Caleb, you completely hit it right in the head. If you're a good coach in the NFL now, then you know how to stop Lamar Jackson. I knew the Patriots game was going to be close because I know Belichick knows how to stop Lamar. All these great coaches know how to stop Lamar. Lamar's becoming successful against the teams that just suck. They don't have the best personnel. The coaches are average, rather. But all these great coaches in the NFL know how to stop this guy. And that's because you can't do as much as other quarterbacks. Look, even if they get a top 10 receiver, can Lamar really get him the ball? I don't know, guys. And all that talk about Lamar not being able to throw well and stuff, I mean, it's starting to come back to light because he can only do so much. I feel bad for the offensive coordinator because he's receiving a lot of heat and everything. You can't really do anything with this guy. I mean, he's a great quarterback and everything, but eventually, within the next couple of years, more and more coaches are going to start to figure this guy out, and the Ravens are going to go down the tubes. It's only a matter of time. So if I was a Ravens fan, I'd be nervous right now. Honestly, I'd be nervous. Is Lamar really your franchise quarterback? That's a question that you have to ask yourself right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, as John was saying, like going 11-5, like they're obviously going to make the playoffs, and that's great. But they went, 12-3 last year, 12-4 last year. So it's actually it would be a down year. You lose one win, and then you go out in the playoffs in the first round. That's a bad season for them.
The third time in a row, right? Third time in a row they lose the first game of the playoffs.
Three times in a row with Lamar that they would go out in the first round. So I only see them considering it a good season or a great season if they win that playoff game, and it doesn't look like they will. This team, every good team they face, they lose. Every good coach, they lose. Their one good win that I've seen is at the Colts, because the Colts have a really good defense. But other than that, you saw Marquise Brown just get absolutely blanketed on that interception. Like, he was just completely negated. He's getting frustrated. I was watching a couple videos. He's getting frustrated because he thinks he's wide open, and from Lamar's perspective, he's not open. So it's tough right now for the Ravens, because he wins the MVP last year, and they go out in the first round and they're like, it's okay, we got all the players coming back, Lamar's coming back, it's gonna be fine. And it's just been just a blah kind of year. Like, it's just boring, so they haven't proved to me that they can win one playoff game. They've played good teams and they've lost. So as far as the playoffs go, I'm very, very worried for the Ravens. Any other remarks about the Ravens?
This is a quick thing, but if you think about it, when was the last time you had a scrambling quarterback in the Super Bowl? Like, I'm trying to rack my brain. I don't know. Because
would you consider Russell Wilson?
Yeah, Russell Wilson. What about him? I don't know.
That's a good example. But he's probably a better thrower than Lamar. Like, that's the thing, is that you can be a scrambling quarterback, but you gotta. I think there's
scrambles to extend the play, but Lamar scrambles to run the ball, like to get the first down. So it's like a different type.
Yeah.
And I feel bad for Hollywood Brown. He's actually cousins with Antonio Brown. I saw him play in Oklahoma, OU. He's really good, but Lamar's making him look like he's not that great of a receiver. I don't think that's the case. If he goes to any other team, he's going to be elite, in my opinion. So that's why you're seeing frustration. He knows his quarterback's not that good. He's making him look bad. He's actually better than a lot of people think he is. It's just his quarterback can't really get him the ball that much. So there's a lot of uncertainty in Baltimore right now. We'll just have to see what happens.
Yep. Yeah, I think they got to use him correctly. I think with his position and with his speed and abilities, it's got to be like speed and space. You just got to get him the ball and let him work. They're trying to throw deep balls to him, and he's just too small to be able to moss the guy or jump over him and get the ball over the cornerback. So last on our list, we wanted to talk about Drew Brees' injury. So it was released, I think it was on Monday, that he has 5 broken ribs and a collapsed lung. And Jameis Winston came in for the game and ended up winning for the Saints against the 49ers, 27-13. Didn't do anything crazy, kind of just, got the win, and that was pretty much it. Didn't do anything crazy. The Saints have the Falcons, Broncos, Falcons again, Eagles, and then Chiefs. So they really have a easy schedule for the next 5-6 weeks. John, what do you think about Jameis Winston taking over the Saints? It's kind of the same situation they had last year with Teddy Bridgewater. Do you see Jameis Winston thriving in this offense?
Right. It's the same situation as last year. Brees gets hurt, backup quarterback comes in. And to be honest, I don't think this is all that bad for the Saints. I think obviously it's not good, but I wouldn't count the Saints out. If you're a Saints fan, I wouldn't worry, because the Saints have a way of calling plays in such a way that makes it easy for the quarterback to succeed. You see Brees, his completion percentage is high, and I know that's because of his accuracy, but they throw short passes, and Sean Payton's pretty creative with his plays, and Taysom Hill will get plays in. Kamara will touch the ball a lot. And remember last year, Michael Thomas, everybody was like trying to trade him from their fantasy team, but Teddy Bridgewater gave Thomas some good games. And I think that'll be the case. I wouldn't sit or trade away any of your players on the Saints. And this is the first time we're seeing Winston play after LASIK eye surgery. So we could see a different Winston. So I don't think this is all that bad. And when you look at their schedule, they get the Falcons, the Broncos, the Falcons, the Eagles. I think they're going to win all 4 of those games with Winston. Now, if Brees doesn't come back for the Chiefs game, which is next, that's a problem because they'll probably lose that if Brees isn't there. But the biggest problem for the Saints I see the rest of the year is obviously Brees. You want to get Brees back at least 2 to 3 games before the end of the regular season, because you can't just have him come in when they make the playoffs if they get that first round bye and then just come in right for the playoffs in the divisional round. He has to have some sort of, ease back into the season, play those last 2-3 games and start to build momentum. And that's where I see a big problem for the Saints. If he doesn't get in within those last 2 to 3 games of the season, it's going to be very bad for their playoff hopes, even if he is able to come back in the playoffs, because you can't just have your first game back be, in the divisional round of the playoffs. And I think that's a big problem for the Saints, and they got to try to get him back as soon as possible, because Winston, I don't think he's going to, I think he could pull a Teddy Bridgewater, but I don't think he could pull a Nick Foles.
Yeah, I think Jameis, all he needs to do is be a good game manager and not turn the ball over and just do the basics of what needs to be done for the team to be successful. The best player obviously on the team is Kamara. They need to take some tips from the Carolina Panthers, and as much as you can, Jameis, they need he needs to check down Kamara anytime he can't find anybody. Kamara. Kamara's that talented to always make something out of nothing. And so as long as he doesn't turn the ball over, he finds Kamara when in trouble, then I think the team should be decent for these next few games. And I'm not too concerned about giving Drew Brees a couple games before the playoffs. He's a legend. He's done this for many years. Nothing really startles him at this moment in his career. I just think I think the Saints will be okay for the rest of the season. And so if Drew Brees can come back in the playoffs, then hey, they can go for a run. But I just hope he's okay. So we'll see how things go.
Yeah, you hope Drew Brees, gets healthy, right? And I know I mentioned this to you guys, but hopefully with the lung issues, he doesn't, get sick with COVID or anything. Wish him a speedy recovery. I agree, Jonathan. Your first point is Jameis Winston can be great if he just doesn't turn the ball over, because that was the problem in the Buccaneers. He was a great. Skip Bayless puts it like this, where he was good enough to keep both teams in the game. I've said that before, but that's for real. He would have crazy fantasy numbers because of how much offense he'd do. It would just turnovers would kill the chances of winning. So, and then like John, you said, if I didn't know he got LASIK surgery, but maybe we will see a new, maybe that's why there's so many picks. It was instinct, knowing the playbook, able to get these touchdowns. But who knows? But yeah, I think like Jonathan said, if go feed Kamara, use him still as much as you would, and use Thomas, keep the defense secondary honest by using Thomas still with Winston. I don't know if they have to change their game up. He's got to. I think Winston can be great if he just doesn't turn the ball over, is consistent hitting these passes that he has to, letting Kamara get the feeding them the way they need. I think they'll be okay too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think he can go the next 4 weeks and even with mistakes still come out with a win. They're way more talented than all the teams that they have to face in the next 4 weeks. And then they got the Chiefs and then Vikings. So besides that Chiefs game, I wouldn't be too worried at all. I think they have enough players around Winston to be able to get him to pull through and win those games. As far as Drew Brees, this is dangerous, man. This could be his last year. If this injury is as serious as I think and many people think, we may see this season be the last season for Brees. This playoff run may be one of the last that he has. So just to keep that in the back of your mind. And this season he hasn't really played amazing. And I think while he's recovering and rehabbing, I think that's something that he can think about is, am I declining? Am I making the team better? All these things start to go through his head. So I would be surprised if he came back for next season. And it's going to be interesting to see if Winston succeeds. Could they sign him to a longer deal and Jameis Winston continues with the Saints? Who knows? That would be insane. I don't have a lot of faith in Winston. But who knows, man? Who knows? It's crazy. Let's get to our next segment. We're gonna try to implement fantasy football into the podcast finally, because all you guys are asking for it. John is gonna list his must sits for this week, week 11 of the season. So, without further ado, John, take it away. Your must sits for fantasy football, week 11.
Yep. So usually I do the weekly picks everybody sees on TikTok where I pick guys to have good games, but this is where I'm going to choose some big name players that I think are not going to have as big of games. Last week, we kind of did it unintentionally where I picked Fulgham to not have a good game. But this week, the game that I'm targeting and the game I'm worried about in terms of fantasy is the Green Bay and Indianapolis game, and specifically on the Green Bay side. The Colts have a really good defense. They've been playing really well this year. They haven't allowed a 100-yard rusher. And I'm going to say that the only player on Green Bay that you should start in your lineups is Devontae Adams. He's a must start every week. But if you have Aaron Rodgers or Aaron Jones, both Aarons, I would sit them this week. I would start almost anybody else instead of Aaron Rodgers. I'd rather start Tua than Aaron Rodgers this week.
Oh, wow.
And I don't think either of them are going to get to 20 points. And to be honest, I don't really even think either of them will get to even 15 points against the Colts. I don't think Rodgers will get to 15. I don't think Jones will get to 15. Adams always has that chance for a big play, but I'm really worried about the Packers this week. So if you have them on your team, you may want to consider the waiver wire here.
Wow, that is bold, man.
Bold.
Wanted to say something that, some big name players that could have a bad week. I don't want to just choose a bad guy, some big name guys.
That's fair, man.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to go on and move on to the games of the week. We have the Raiders versus Chiefs and the Seahawks Cardinals. Feels like the Seahawks and Cardinals just played.
They play
Yeah.
every week. Seahawks Cardinals play every week.
So Raiders versus Chiefs. We'll start off with that one. I'm going to go with the Chiefs. I think they're going to be playing a lot more high alert with the Raiders since they lost to them earlier in the season. So they're not going to let things slide like they did before. I got the Chiefs over the Raiders.
Yeah, I got the same. I think that Mahomes will want to get revenge from the last game, and I don't see it being as close as the last game. So I'm definitely taking the Chiefs.
Yeah, I'm taking the Chiefs as well. Champions don't lose twice to the same team, and you saw that in the Patriots. Maybe sometimes Bills would get lucky. The next time they'd wipe them out. The same thing's gonna happen. Chiefs are gonna wipe I don't know if wipe them out is the right term or phrase, but Chiefs are gonna win. Like John said, Mahomes feels like he's the best player in the league, and he's not gonna lose again to the Raiders.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you guys. I'm gonna go with the Chiefs. I know it's a safe choice. The only reason I could see, not the only reason, but I could see the Raiders coming out with a win because they have more to lose. I mean, they might be competing for the wild card spot. So, the Chiefs are sitting pretty at 8-1, 2 games above the Raiders. The Raiders, although, are 3-0 in the division. So if it did come down to a tie game, then you might start looking at that. So the Raiders have more to lose, but the Chiefs, I think, will, like you guys said, adjust, and Mahomes, and they've been quietly, of all the teams that have been weird this season, Chiefs have been consistent in how good they've been. So their first loss was to the Raiders, but I think they're gonna win this one.
All right. The moment I've been waiting for, Seahawks versus Cardinals. I've been looking forward to this one. Since the last time they faced off, as we all know, the Cardinals pulled off a win against the Seahawks. The last time they faced in overtime. I guess I should go first. It's Cardinals. The Cardinals are going to win this game. I'm excited because the last time I was the only one to pick the Cardinals. And I think this time I may not be the only one to pick the Cardinals. So I'm just excited to see that. John?
Yeah, the Cardinals are not going to win this game. Everybody, wait, what? Why are you guys so surprised by that?
I'm laughing at Jared's reaction.
The past few weeks.
Did you watch that in the week before that?
Seahawks are going down. Cardinals are going up.
Oh, you guys. Oh my gosh. This is exactly. I can't believe you got I can't believe you guys don't see through this. You guys don't realize this? This is
You're pulling my leg.
I am a time traveler this week because this is the same scenario that
Dude,
happened.
You're only time traveler for fantasy. That's it.
Dude, no, this is the same scenario that happened with the Rams and the 49ers. Remember, the 49ers got destroyed by the Dolphins and the Rams were playing really well. And I'm like, everybody put your money on the 49ers because they're going to win. Oh. Everybody's picking the Cardinals to win this game. So people, please see through the Hail Murray and pick the Seahawks because Chris Carson might come back. If he does, they're definitely going to win. If he doesn't, I think they still could win. I think Russell Wilson will bounce back. I don't think Kyler Murray will have as good of a game as the last time. And I think the Seahawks stay atop the division. And I still think they're going to win this division by the end of the year.
To put this in perspective, the Seahawks are dead last in defense and the Cardinals are number 1 in offense.
That's what I was just about to say. Exactly. Don't think about it like Russell Wilson. Think about it. Think about the defense in terms of the Seahawks. The Seahawks defense is just so terrible that, Kyler Murray is definitely prone to score a lot of points. So any mistake that the Seahawks offense makes, then it's going to give, the Cardinals another opportunity to win the game. And so it's like the stock market, right? Seahawks are going down. I'm bearish on the Seahawks, but I'm bullish on the Cardinals. Their stock's going up right now.
No, but sometimes in the stock market, you have something go down and then all of a sudden, boom, some news comes out, boom, it's straight up. So you got to watch out for that.
My spike would be if Carson comes back. If Carson is playing, or they'll get.
What's the percentage if he comes back?
It's literally 50-50. They literally have no idea.
Okay.
He's limited. Carlos Hyde was also participating, so he might be coming back. I was reading here that Tyler Lockett was also day-to-day. So if Tyler Lockett's out, then I don't think they have a chance. If Lockett is in and healthy and they get Carson back, I'm going to go with the Seahawks on that one. Because last game, and those are my two conditions, right? If both Lockett are healthy, if Lockett's healthy and Carson's back healthy, I'm giving it to the Seahawks because arguably the Cardinals won against the Seahawks because of Wilson's mistake. Threw a pick in overtime. Mm-hmm. I think but that's being said, those are two pretty big ifs right now because Carson's still limited. And, who knows with Lockett's knee, that's a knee issue. So maybe it's just safer not to play him this week. But those two conditions not being met, I'll hear my case why the Cardinals are going to win. And it's all the reasons you guys said that they've been steadily improving. And Wilson's proven himself, but this season he's had some weird patterns, right? It's like comparable to Carson Wentz, where he has greatness in him, but some of these interceptions, like the number of interceptions he's thrown, some weird calls, it's strange coming from Wilson more so than because he has a longer tenure than Wentz, but I haven't seen that improve as much with Wilson. And it's possible with a division game, an important game, he might, but the Cardinals, coming off a high, like the win they just had, and if Lockett's out or Carson's still out in that Seattle defense, I think you got to give it to the Cardinals for now.
All right, so we're 50-50 with a condition.
Yeah.
Carson is not playing. All right. That was a pretty good episode, guys. We kept it under 2 hours. So that's a win for us. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been episode 27.
Yep.
27, Caleb? All right, I got this.
Yep,
right.
27.
Episode 27. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it this far, I want you to comment Cardinals or Seahawks. That's it. Just comment Cardinals or Seahawks. I'd really love to know. But yeah, if you haven't followed the TikTok or Instagram yet, go follow us over there at Dorm Debate Podcast. And we will see you guys for week 12